Got 9 things that just dropped in my lap that I need to tell you guys about. I'm talking stuff like mandate vaccines and jail the unvaccinated. What? And a huge warning to American states, 5 states that are gonna need to avoid the sun. And buckle up, gas is about to get super expensive. Millions of drivers will be forced to pay extra for every gallon of gas in 2026 as costs jump 75%. And I know a lot of you guys have internet out there, and 13 routers are being attacked, and the FBI has put out a stark urgent warning. Gonna tell you more about that. And guess what? Some states, new law that would make it easier to involuntarily commit people to hospitals. There's also a global Microsoft closure means 400 million computers to stop working properly. That's not gonna be good. And also, 3 states, millions across 3 states issued air quality warnings. And to top it off, I've got good news. Something that Trump did with China that's got markets soaring dramatically. This is good news regarding the tariffs and, of course, that affects you, inflation. Important information that affects you guys coming right up. Hey guys, my name is Cohen here at Riverside Homestead, and if you're brand new here, welcome. And if you guys are into prepping tips, emergency preparedness, and most important, news and awareness that affects you, be sure to start this video off with a like, hit that notification bell so you guys can stay up to date, and let's begin. All right guys, welcome back, and thanks for starting this off with a like. If you appreciate this awareness type news that most oftenly affects you, keeping you guys up to date is definitely the goal. Now, this first one that I'm gonna start off with is a little bit tricky because I'm gonna say someone's name, and this has to do with someone that I know I'm not supposed to talk about. So this is happening in the world, and it's very concerning. It says Singapore passes a law to mandate vaccines and jail the unvaccinated days after Billy G does a high-level visit to Singapore. Now seriously, this guy just shows up, who knows what was said, and now there's a mandate for vaccines, and Singapore passes a law to jail people that don't follow the rules? Now, for those of you that do some research, I might need your guys' help on this one, on letting me know if this is legitimate. I don't know. This is an X post by Sudden and Unexpected. It looks legitimate. It says that it's fact-checked by the People's Voice community. I've got a couple people in the comments, because I always read through comments, that say that there's no credible evidence. But at the same time, you've got the haters that will try to prove a point. But the fact that we're seeing headlines that look legitimate like that, definitely worth sharing. Moving right along, Americans advised to avoid the sun in 5 states. It says residents of Arizona, Florida, Colorado, New Mexico, and Texas are facing high levels of ultraviolet UV radiation levels from the sun on Tuesday. A forecast map of environmental protection agencies, the EPA, showed. And this is a picture of the map right here. You can clearly see what states. And it also tells you, why does this matter? An extreme UV index means unprotected skincare burn within minutes, increasing the risk of skin damage, and cancer. Public health agencies recommend limiting exposure to sun during the day and using strong sun protection. Now, I wouldn't advise using all the market trending brands out there, because a lot of them have toxic ingredients. If you need better sun protection, better after sun ALOT protection that's American made and non-toxic, click this link down in the description. We'll get you information on switching over your whole home to better stuff. But as like Barbara O'Neill would say, you don't need anything. Just limit your time in the sun to a reasonable amount of time. The sun can be good for your body if you don't go and bask in it for hours on end and come out burnt. But what you need to know, the UV index runs on a scale of 1 to 11. The levels and their corresponding advice follows: 1 to 2 low, minimal risk, to 3 to 5, which is moderate, and 6 to 7 that's high, 8 to 10 that's very high, and 11 plus is extreme. Extreme risk of harm. Unprotected skin can burn in minutes is what they say. They're telling people to avoid exposure between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. They're saying an SPF 30 sunscreen every 2 hours. Seek shade and wear full coverage when you're in the sun to be protected. Now, like I said, Barbara O'Neill is like pretty much against sunscreen, and she would say, be smart, don't be in it for too long, find shade when you need it. And I would think, if using a sunscreen, use something that's natural and safe, that comes from a reputable company. Now, I know a lot of you guys want to know about this. Millions of drivers will be forced to pay extra for every gallon of gas, and they're saying that this is quickly coming in 2026. This is months away, not years away, as costs jump 75%. Now, I don't know if you guys are already complaining about gas prices, but I know we are, and 75% jump might mean that you're not going very many places, which means you want to subscribe to this channel, because every once in a while I do an e-bike review, which you can charge that bad boy with a solar panel, and I'm always doing e-bike reviews. And if it ever gets that bad, you need to be able to get to a grocery store, you need to be able to get somewhere, and these things these days go hundreds of miles. In this report, it says drivers are being warned to brace for brutal gas hike that could leave them shelling out more than $8 for every gallon. Now, I think there's some places that already pay that often, like California, maybe parts of Washington, and some other areas. Put them down in the description if you guys, across the board, put your state and what you're paying for gas currently down in the comments below. I think that would be very informative for everyone to read, because I personally think the whole thing is a monopoly game. It's saying that a new report predicts a staggering 75% spike in prices by the end of 2026, hitting the wallets across one state in particular. Now, it looks like they might be referring to Los Angeles area. The estimated average consumer price of regular gasoline could potentially increase by as much as 75% from April 23rd, 2025, price of $4.816 to $7.348 to $8.435 a gallon by calendar year end of 2026. This expert wrote, we can expect retail prices to be even higher in countries such as Mono and Humboldt. Get this, it says California consumes more than 13.1 million gallons of gasoline each day, according to the report. So think about it. When whoever's in control, which is probably somebody bad, which we all know, decides to just randomly spike up gas prices, think about 13.1 million gallons a day and how much they profit. Then you go to some of these other states, read them down in the comments, because people will tell you what they're paying for gas in their state per gallon. And you guys will quickly know that places like this, and I'm not gonna lie, it's usually blue states, and I'm not being one-sided or the other, but oftentimes it's blue states that are taking advantage of people and gas hiking them, because you double the price of gasoline on 13.1 million gallons. So much money. And then you wonder why the folks down in the comments that are saying that they're still paying a little bit of money for gallons of gas. Well, how come their gas is so cheap? This right here is a rabbit hole alone if you guys ever want to go down that one. And remember, California likes to lead the way on what we all can see coming down the pipe. So just know that this is the game plan by economists and experts, that by the end of 2026, people are going to be paying a lot more in gas across the board. Moving right along. Everyone's got internet. A lot of people have routers. Here's the problem. The FBI issues urgent warning. These 13 routers are being hacked as we speak. Anyway, so the FBI is dealing with the cybersecurity. I don't know how many of you trust the FBI, but they are putting out a stark warning. 13 specific older routers, calling them end-of-life devices that are no longer supported by manufacturers, are highly vulnerable to cyber attacks. So if you guys aren't staying up to date with newer technology, it might bite you in the rear end if you don't have a really good anti-cyber attack type of software. It says once breached, attackers can install malicious software that allows them to remotely control the device, steal your data, recruit into a botnet, networks of compromised devices used for denial of service, attacks, spam campaigns, or selling proxy access to other cyber criminals. According to the FBI, recent attacks have been linked to illicit proxy services like 5-Socks and a proxy, a lot of crazy stuff. These are the ones that, a lot of crazy stuff that probably doesn't make sense to a lot of people, but these are the ones that are at risk. The full list includes models like Linksys, which I know that is a very common brand, and these are below the entire list of the models. If you guys have a Linksys, which I know there's millions and millions of people out there that use that very, very common brand of router, those are the ones that you need to be very, very careful about. And if you guys have one of these you may highly consider upgrading. Okay, so this next one I need to tell you guys about is very alarming. This is very, very alarming. This comes from New York Mental Health. New law would make it easier to involuntarily commit people to hospitals. Now, I've got somebody from the community that writes in this. So it says, more New Yorkers are expected to be involuntarily committed to hospitals under a measure included in the state budget that Governor Kathy Hochul and the state lawmakers were finalizing on May 7th. This is definitely alarming. And this is what a concerned citizen from our community had to say. This is a recipe for all-out disaster. And imagine if one state sets this precedent, what could happen in others? That means all of your states. It's always a follow the leader type of thing. Not to mention that there are already not enough beds for the mentally ill. I'm actually concerned that this might expand that the law she passed for public health, that authority to put you in a facility if deemed a public health threat. Now, they've removed that and just said if you can't provide for your essential needs, food, clothing, sheltering. Now, they've removed that and just said that if you can't provide for your essential needs, food, clothing, shelter, you can be involuntarily committed for a mental health issue, even if you are not mentally ill. You guys hearing that? And that completely ignores the fact that patients with real mental health issues already spend days in the ED now just to get a bed somewhere else. Seems like a recipe for trampling civil rights at the very least. And she continues to say, and now perhaps the rumors I've heard about quietly reorganizing and consolidating prisons is making more sense now. What do you guys think? Put it in the comments. Right here it says, what's new in the New York's involuntary commitment law? It says among the key changes to New York's involuntary commitment law, it says the involuntary commitment order must be approved by two providers, either two physicians or a physician and psychiatric nurse practitioner. Current law requires two physicians to sign off, which makes me scratch my head because then why can a practitioner sign off if it takes two physicians to sign off? Maybe I'm wrong, but that sounds off. The new language used to justify involuntary commitment requires showing the person was at risk due to inability or refusal as a result of their mental illness to provide for their own essential needs such as food, clothing, necessary medical care, personal safety, and shelter, right? Third bullet point, if a patient is discharged at any time before admission to a psychiatric center or inpatient psychiatric service provider, the discharging hospital must advise the patient of clinically appropriate follow-up services and coordinate discharge planning to provide referrals depending on the case specifics. How does that make you feel? They'll deem you one way and say you gotta go. And then with all the old prisons and rehabilitation, I would love to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments on this one. Now, moving right along, there's another major thing that is going to affect a lot of people. I'm talking 400 million computers. Global Microsoft closure means 400 million computers to stop working properly. That's not good, guys. And you're in danger if you don't act soon. Say, what? Yeah, this is an article from The Sun, and it's saying the tech giant has warned it will be ending support for Windows 10 software on the 14th of October of 2025, which means roughly 900 million computer owners are set to be affected. It says in quotes, after 14th of October 2025, Microsoft will no longer provide free software updates from Windows updates, technical assistance, or security fixes for Windows 10. Microsoft writes in a help page on the website. So listen, guys, make sure your stuff's moving to Windows 11, or if it's past Windows 11 now. And if you guys can't upgrade to Windows 11, you might consider getting a new computer because this is going to put you at serious risk. Now remember, I've got some good news at the end. Hang tight. But first I want to talk about millions across 3 states issued an air quality warning. And I have a map for you. It says residents in Ohio, Minnesota, Texas have been urged to limit outdoor activities. They're saying you can't go outside, basically. It says air quality advisories were issued across multiple regions in all 3 states. I know you guys are wondering, why is that? It says, why it matters, officials cited ground level ozone pollution as the cause of these alerts, warning that conditions may pose health risks, especially to sensitive groups including children and elderly, it's always saying children and elderly, and people with respiratory or heart conditions. It says that you need to know that Ohio, an air quality advisory for ground level ozone advisory would be in effect until midnight Monday night to a bunch of these areas. Anyway, if you guys are in those areas and concerned, I like how there's ozone warnings for just those 3 states. So it's just gonna peer through and hurt those states only. I don't know. Something does not add up about that. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. How about some good news? Total reset with China sends markets soaring. Folks, this is what we need. I mean, there's a lot of fixing in the mix, but some good negotiations from old Trump and China could put us in a better spot across the board on both sides of the fence. It says the crypto market is soaring dramatically on May 10th as President Donald Trump claimed that the US had a very good meeting with China. Bitcoin soared to nearly 105,000 price market within an hour of Trump's statement. However, it retreated to the previous zone within a few hours. It's saying Ethereum also neared $2,600 mark. It says Trump wrote on Truth Social that the 2 countries negotiated a total reset in a friendly but constructive manner. He added that the US would like to see China opening up to American business. Great progress made. However, the president didn't reveal any specific details on the progress that he claimed. Let's check out this quick video.
Stocks soared today after the U.S. and China agreed to drastically cut their dueling tariffs for 3 months while the 2 global powers work to hammer out a broader deal. Fox's Caroline Shively has the latest from Washington.
The U.S. and China have cut a 90-day deal to slash tariffs, a temporary truce in a trade war that has already hit U.S. ports and threatens to tip the global economy into a recession.
I think it's going to be fantastic for China. I think it's going to be fantastic for us.
The U.S. agreed to drop the 145% tax on Chinese imports to 30%, and China dropped from 125 to 10%. The market soared on the news Monday as the 2 sides continue negotiations. Administration officials say they'll use the 3-month pause to rebalance trade. Last year, the U.S. bought $295 billion more from China. The market soared on the news Monday as the 2 sides continue negotiations. Administration officials say they'll use the 3-month pause to rebalance trade. Last year, the U.S. bought $295 billion more from China than China bought from the U.S.
We want more balanced trade, and I think that both sides are committed to achieving that. We would like to see China open to more U.S. goods.
Some analysts say it's too early to call it a win.
If you look at what Trump is doing, he's blinking. He's stepping things down and claiming victories.
This follows a deal Trump made with the United Kingdom last week. But the overall 10% tariff on imports remains in place for U.S. trading partners, including the UK, with higher reciprocal tariffs on a number of countries and industries.
They have assessed 10% to 25% tariffs on our allies, the very people that we would need, our friends and allies, in order to deal with China. So to me, they've been approaching this all upside down.
If an agreement isn't reached, the higher tariffs will return in mid-August. In Washington, Caroline Shively, Fox News.
All right, folks, for those of you that were concerned, this is actually some pretty good news. It says, as for now, the U.S. levies are 145% tariff on Chinese imports, and the Chinese levies 125% tariff on U.S. imports. The escalations have led to a near trade embargo. China official states new agency Xinhua said on May 10th that the high-level meeting began at the request of the USA, stable and constructive. Relationship serves the interest of both nations and world at large. It mentioned and added trade wars and tariff battles yield no winners. So like I said, this is actually probably some good news, unless you guys have some information that would correct that to me down in the comments. But I think that this provides insight on maybe a little bit lightening up on inflation, food inflation, tech inflation, really everything, because we've really relied on China for a lot of things over the past few years. Do we need to take care of our own country and have our own stuff? Certainly, but that will take time. This definitely softens the blow. Anyway, if you guys found this informative, please share this out to to inform others. I've got 2 other videos. Let me know if you guys like this one on olive oil, because people are probably not going to be buying olive oil anymore after they watch this, because I could make a lot more videos like that if you guys really like them. And then this video was slowed down, and I think that that's because of the old algorithmer, but let me know if it's good information or if you guys don't like it. Now be sure you hit the notification bell near the subscription button if you guys like staying up to date on current events that I think affect you, because I got a lot more coming down the pipe. Keep prepping, keep learning, keep doing. We'll see you guys on the next one.